Day 26, Pleasing God and Examining Our Ways. Psalms 119, verses 58 and 59, Amplified Classic says, I entreated your favor with my whole heart. Be merciful and gracious to me according to your promise. I considered my ways, I turned my feet to obey your testimonies. Proverbs 16:7, Amplified also says, When a man's ways please the Lord, he makes even his enemies to be at peace with him. One of the greatest truths about living in the favor of God is this: God's favor flows where God's ways are followed. David said, I entreated your favor with my whole heart. I thought about your ways and turned my feet to your testimonies. The word entreated means to seek earnestly and intentionally. David didn't just show up and hope favor would be there. He postured himself for it. When I was growing up, my dad's house ran on my dad's rules. If I walked in line with his rules, I walked in his favor. If I didn't, I was out of favor until things were made right. My dad was a good man, a generous man, and he never withheld anything from me. In fact, when I was 10, he put me on his checking account so I could take care of things if anything happened to him. Many times I'd walk into school, write a check for books or fees, and the teacher would look at it twice, seeing my name on the account. The favor of God works the same way. When your ways please the Lord, favor flows. When you align your thoughts, choices, and actions with His Word, you are walking in the lane where His blessings travel. That's why Proverbs 16:7 says, When a man's ways please the Lord, he makes even his enemies to be at peace with him. Even the people who don't like you can't stop God's favor when your life lines up with His will. David was called a man after God's own heart, even though he made some serious mistakes. Why? Because every time he stumbled, he turned his feet back towards God's testimonies. God doesn't judge you by your past. He looks at the direction of your heart, examining your ways. The psalmist said, I thought about my ways. That's a deliberate self-check. Many people will consider everything else, blame the economy, the job, other people, but never stop to ask, Lord, are my ways pleasing to you? I've learned over the years that the first step to increasing the favor of God is to honestly evaluate if my choices reflect His Word. That includes finances, relationships, words, attitudes, every area. I remember my church years ago when we hosted a Dave Ramsey financial peace class. We had about 60 people involved, and I was surprised how often people wanted to attribute financial stress to outside factors when truthfully they hadn't considered their ways. The same is true spiritually. If favor isn't flowing like God promised, the first thing to check is, am I walking in a way that pleases Him? Favor is never accidental. Jesus Himself modeled this life. Twice the Father publicly said, This is my beloved Son, in whom I am well pleased. Notice the Father didn't just say He loved Jesus, He said He was pleased. That's why Luke 2:52 says Jesus increased in wisdom and stature and in favor with God and man. If Jesus, our perfect example, could grow in favor, so can we. But it won't happen by accident. It comes by daily turning our feet towards God's testimonies and keeping our ways aligned with His. Make this confession with me. Father, I set my heart to walk in your ways. I align my thoughts, my actions, and my choices with your word. I thank you that as my ways please you, you surround me with favor like a shield, and even my enemies are at peace with me. I turn my feet towards your testimonies today, and I walk in your favor in every area of my life. In Jesus' name,